So, what if I told you that a book written 150 years ago might just hold the keys to navigating our crazy, sometimes hollow modern world? That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to take Friedrich Nietzsche's Untimely Meditations and treat it like what it secretly is, a full-blown survival guide for the soul. So, let's crack open this old-school guide and see what it has to teach us right here, right now.
Okay, right off the bat, Nietzsche makes us face a really uncomfortable question. What if our culture, with all its art, all its knowledge, all its achievements, is just a beautiful, shiny shell? Impressive on the outside, but totally empty on the inside? This is our starting point. We've got to diagnose the sickness before we can even think about finding a cure.
And who's to blame for this sickness? Well, Nietzsche gives us our main villain, the Culture-Philistine. Just picture someone who buys all the important books to display on their shelves but never actually reads them. Or someone who goes to art galleries just to seem sophisticated. They use culture like a designer handbag, a status symbol. But inside, there's no real passion, no creative spark. They are, you could say, the zombies of the intellectual world. So, step one in our survival guide is learning who to steer clear of. And lucky for us, Nietzsche gives us the perfect case study. It's his absolutely brutal takedown of a super popular writer from his day named David Strauss. This is where Nietzsche really sharpens his knives. See, this guy Strauss wrote a bestseller that basically tried to have its cake and eat it too. He was all for Darwin's survival of the fittest, a really harsh, godless idea, right? But then he tried to wrap it up in this warm, fuzzy blanket of feel-good middle-class morality. To Nietzsche, this wasn't just bad thinking. It was the ultimate intellectual crime. It was just fundamentally dishonest. And wow, he did not pull any punches. He called Strauss a writer of the most miserable sort and just completely torched the guy's reputation. And look, this wasn't just a petty insult. It was Nietzsche declaring war on any kind of shallow thinking that pretends to be deep, especially when it gets popular. And this comparison really lays it all out. On one side, you've got Strauss, who thinks philosophy and culture are supposed to make us feel all cozy and comfortable. And on the other side, you've got Nietzsche, who's basically shouting that nature is cruel and godless, and that real culture isn't about comfort. It's about forging a powerful, unified style that can only come from staring hard truths right in the face. Okay, so we know who to avoid. What's next in the guide? It's all about how we deal with the past. Nietzsche looked around and saw that his era was dangerously obsessed with history. So much so that he actually thought of it as a kind of disease. He even gave it a name, the historical sickness. This is what happens when a culture just knows too much about everything that came before it and becomes totally paralyzed. It's what leads to cynicism, to that feeling that, it's all been done before, so why even bother trying to make something new? Does that sound at all familiar? To really hammer this point home, Nietzsche uses this amazing metaphor of a cow just chilling in a field. The cow is happy, he says, because it lives completely in the present moment. It has no memory weighing it down. But us humans, we're stuck carrying the massive weight of our own history. The real challenge isn't to just forget everything, but to figure out how to use the past without getting crushed by it. So what's the answer? For Nietzsche, it all comes down to this. History has to serve life. It needs to be the fuel that inspires us to act now, in the present. It should never be some comfy academic armchair we sink into just to avoid the real, difficult work of creating a future. And that brings us to the most personal part of the guide, the hard, active work of creating yourself. And for this, Nietzsche points to the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, not really for his pessimistic philosophy, but for his powerful, authentic character. He saw him as the ultimate role model. And here is where Nietzsche just flips a huge idea right on its head. You know how we're always told to go find yourself? Well, Nietzsche would say that's total nonsense. Your true self, what he calls your higher self, isn't just sitting around somewhere waiting to be discovered. It's something you have to build. It's a goal you work towards. It's a mountain you have to climb, step by painful step. So how do you even start climbing that mountain? Well, Nietzsche kind of lays out a three-step path. First, you have to figure out what your raw material even is, your real, honest-to-God strengths and weaknesses. Second, you need to find true educators. He calls them liberators, people who don't just pour facts into your brain, but actually help you unlock your own potential. And then, finally, you got to do the main job yourself. And this quote just nails his core message of radical self-responsibility. No teacher, no book, no guide can do the heavy lifting for you. They can show you the path, sure,
but the journey of becoming who you are, that's a walk you absolutely have to take alone.
So let's say we're all on this tough personal journey. What can possibly heal the sick culture all around us? This takes us to the last part of our guide, the incredible, transformative power of great art, which for Nietzsche was inspired by the composer Richard Wagner.
Nietzsche felt that his world had become way too scientific, way too obsessed with just cold, hard facts and data. You had all these specialists who knew more and more about less and less, but the culture as a whole had lost any sense of shared purpose. The antidote to all this, he believed, was myth. He saw Wagner's epic mythic operas as this powerful force that could give an entire culture a new, unifying vision, a reason to feel and to strive for something great together.
A world of science gives us facts, information, logic, and all of that is absolutely essential, of course. But a world of myth, well, that gives us something that science just can't. It gives us a shared purpose. It gives us a feeling of transformation, and it gives us what Nietzsche called lofty sentiment. Great art doesn't just inform us, it elevates us, it reshapes how we feel, and connects us to something way bigger than ourselves. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. For art to really work its magic, Nietzsche says it has to be a two-way street. It's not enough for the artist to have this incredible vision. The audience also has to be capable of feeling it with that same lofty sentiment. Greatness only happens when a powerful creator meets a powerful, receptive audience.
All right, so after diagnosing the sickness and looking at all the possible cures, what's the big takeaway? Let's bundle all this up into one simple, actionable toolkit that you can carry with you. Here it is, your 4-part survival guide for the soul. The lesson from Strauss teaches us to avoid the fake, shallow intellectual at all costs. The lesson from history teaches us to use the past for action, not as an excuse for paralysis. The lesson from Schopenhauer teaches us to find our own unique path and build our own bridge. And finally, the lesson from Wagner teaches us to seek out great art that genuinely moves and transforms us. You see, what Nietzsche gave us 150 years ago wasn't just some dusty critique of his own time. It's a timeless playbook. It's for anyone, in any age, who looks around and feels like something is missing and who wants to find a real path toward personal and cultural renewal.
And that really just leaves us with one last question to chew on. This was Nietzsche's guide, built for the challenges of the 19th century. If you had to write a survival guide for the soul today, right now, what would your 4 chapters be? What would you tell people to avoid, what to use, what to become, and what to seek out?